Hello viewers, I'm Red2006 and I'm very pleased to have you join me for the latest episode of A Link to the Past Randomizer. As a quick recap, in the last episode, I discovered the Quake Medallion can apparently stop rain. Another search for a vital item only yielded 20 rupees. And in the darkness, I found an important book. We're starting the next episode, picking up a few more items. Out in the middle of nowhere, by the edge of the Misery Mine, there is a path that leads to the Bomos Medallion. And as we can see, it's guarded by a lone vulture, whose curiosity gets the better of him. And he died to protect 10 arrows. Probably wasted his life now you think about it. But while I'm here, we can grab an item in Lake Hylia I've been forgetting about. Oh no, I just got a bit distracted because I was wondering what was making those explosions and then realised there is a Hinox around. Take 2 on that. So if you head out this way, there is an island that does carry a small item. This area can be a pain to navigate if you're not on high health in a randomizer. Because of those things, zeros I believe they're called, they have essentially random movement but will always be moving away from you, and they're very accurate with their bombs. They're equally annoying in Link's Awakening, but you can use the boomerang to get rid of them. And we went all this way for 20 rupees. So, that was rude. So yes, while that was rude, the next thing we have to do is head out to the mountain. One more stop up there, because we need to get the Ether Medallion. At least we can take a shortcut through the old man's house now. The Ether Medallion, got tongue-tied there. The Ether Medallion is the only one that did not reappear in Four Swords Adventures. Both the Bomos and Quake Medallions reappeared. Quake turned enemies into blobs, which I believe it's meant to do, but for some reason it doesn't affect those turtles in Dark Palace despite the fact they are ground-bound enemies. It only slightly damaged one that was on its back. And the Bomos Medallion just exterminates everything with massive rays of light rather than explosions. It looks sort of like the Judgment attack from Tales of Symphonia, or indeed as used by Arceus in the Pokemon games. Also worth noting, pronunciation of Arceus does vary between regions. It's more Arceus in Japanese and Arceus in the English versions. And of course, as a nod to the fans treating Arceus as the overall god rather than just a legend said to be a creator deity, Pikachu does actually refer to Arceus in the same vein as a god in Detective Pikachu. Okay, so neither of those actually gave us anything useful. Right, from here we can head back and do the rest of the Swamp Palace, which I think I shall. Still a few items left. Worth noting, I can go back and get one item in the East Palace. But if it's not the bow, I'm not going to be able to get very far. And I can go into the Ice Palace as well, which I've sort of been neglecting, to be honest. If you get keys in the randomizer, you will have an easier time navigating it. Some of them are found dropped by enemies, but if you have a key, you can avoid a lot of backtracking. Now then, one thing I wonder with this, have the water levels reset? because, I mean, I got most of the stuff, so I won't have to worry too much if they did. Just the usual bit of fluffing around getting this sorted out. It's a little bit annoying having to do this all over again. Also, a bit of trivia. The boss Argus has reappeared in a few forms. It actually reappears in Four Swords Adventures as Stone Argus, and you actually have to use the boomerang this time. However, you can only pull off the eyes that match your colour and defeat those ones. I have to be honest, I don't mind Four Swords Adventures. Its story wasn't great, which was partly an issue with everything being changed halfway through. You can tell because sort of Ganon basically comes out of nowhere and hijacks the entire story. Thankfully, don't have to worry about the water levels. But Vati was going to be the focal villain, but then you find he's working for Ganon. It's not really a twist if that happens, let's be honest. You sort of expect it by now. Anyway, so while the story wasn't great, and Zelda does provide one of the greatest moments of idiocy in video games when she slows down just to tell you that the exit is nearby so that you can fall into the trap and fight Ganon. It is a pretty good game. It's very difficult to play with 4 people because of all the peripherals required. But it's worth it. As long as you actually have a good team, because if you spend a lot of time backstabbing each other and generally being uncoordinated, it'll be funny, but you probably won't get very much done. Worth noting though, I do not hold any regard for Triforce Heroes. I could go on a massive rant about that. It's easily my least favourite Zelda game. I mean, we're not counting the CDI games because they're terrible and Nintendo has officially disowned them. But I personally tend to leave Triforce Heroes out of the canon. To be honest, I didn't actually realise it was intended to be a proper parody, because yes, it does spoof the fashion industry, but the problem is, it also expects you to take everything so seriously at the same time. It's like, yes, the fashion industry is completely ridiculous, it's shallow, it's vacuous, and all these other things. But you have to take it seriously because the entire plot of the game is focused around that, and you also need to be a fashionista if you actually want to get through the game with relative ease. I honestly thought it was more a stealth parody, and it just sort of fell victim to its own stupidity. On top of that, some levels are very easy to do with one person controlling all the links. Then you get some later on that are much, much easier if you have 3 people. It's really, really ridiculous, to be honest. The shared health meter doesn't help because you go down surprisingly quickly. And while the bonus boss is meant to be tough, it's ridiculously unbalanced because each of the Dark Links takes 10 hits with a regular sword, whereas essentially each of you can survive only 3. And on top of that, they are far more coordinated than most human players would be. Anyway, Argus, like Wart in the Great Bay Temple, defeat him by pulling all these things off him. Not sure what they are exactly. Interesting note, when the hookshot is flying out, you actually are invulnerable. Use this as a good trick to avoid attacks. Alright, and now that we've cleared everything out, how did I not get hit then? I was pretty sure I got run over. Couple of blows to the eye with the golden sword. 20 rupees again. Story of your life, really. And once again, let's see what we have. Okay, so not one of the crystals we need. We did get one of the keys to Turtle Rock, but we won't be able to fight the boss because we still need one more. I think our best bet is probably the Ice Palace at this point. Have a quick run through there. See what we can get. And if we don't get anything spectacular, I'll head up and get the last 4 chests in Turtle Rock. Into the lake we go. And right here is where we need to be. Go in there for your capacity upgrades in an open run, but for now, just going to head on in. You will need the fire rod at least. Okay. That was actually helpful. We probably will need the super bomb. Use the hookshot to quickly dispatch these enemies. Make sure to pick up that key just in case. If you're slipping around on the ice, you can use the Pegasus boots to correct your movement. It is also worth noting that while you can defeat these penguins, pengators, fairly easily with the hookshot or high-powered swords, I'm just interested in blowing them up because it's a little faster and they'll often... Usually they'll drop magic anyway. And there we go. Good decision to come here. We finally found it. And we launch another wave of explosions. Just one piddly little magic jar. Oh well. Certainly can't wait to find half magic. I mean, it's not vital, but it really, really does help. You can actually latch onto those walls using the hookshot, as you probably saw. Okay, that didn't go as well as I planned it, but basically throw it into the corner. If you manage to throw it right into the corner, you can trigger the switch as well as blowing up the floor. Not everything goes smooth. Once you knock down those Stalfos Knights, bomb them and you're good to go. Interestingly, this is how you defeat the mini-boss in Catfish's Maw in Link's Awakening. You have to do that several times, 10 times across 4 encounters. And there, speaking of bombs, is one of the most iconic pieces of advice, in inverted commas, from the original game. I believe what it meant was, the idea was, if you defeated 9 enemies without getting hurt, then killed the 10th one with a bomb, then you'd get bombs from that enemy. I think that was the idea. It was very obscure and I'm in a lot of pain. I made a right hash of that and I apologise. Step on that and we will time it carefully. Speaking of making a right hash of things, wow, I should probably take a break. But yep, as I was trying to say earlier, you are invincible when using the hookshot. There's magic in that down there, and the switch in the floor just opens that doorway up again. Not that you do need to backtrack. Okay. Probably should have just charged up the spin attack from the start rather than showing that yes, you can fight them with the sword. But that door there, if you have just one spare key, makes all the difference. I will come back and get that chest on the way down. This dungeon is notoriously confusing and irritating to navigate. If you have the Cane of Samaria from a randomizer, you skip the block puzzle right at the end. And under here, thankfully, is a nice top up for our health. Because the block puzzle does require you to do a lot of backtracking. With the Cane of Samaria, just skip it and waltz on into the boss. And it is worth noting that once you do pick up the big key, which is a floor above, come back down the stairs. Also remember to pull the tongue. Again, to get out, pull that tongue. Don't push those blocks. Head back downstairs to save yourself a lot of backtracking. Okay, that was odd. I've never seen that happen before. Didn't expect to trigger the Pegasus boots and pulling the tongue at the same time. Lift that up and hookshot back across. Bait that into moving. This room can be a little bit difficult to maneuver. I had a really bad time when I decided to do an enemy randomizer with randomized damage because everything decided to do about 5 hearts damage at minimum, and there was a giant blade trap that ambushed me the minute I entered the room, so that was really, really bothersome. Right, killing both of them. Alright, so we can go part of the way into Dark Palace. We can defeat the boss. More health is always useful. Exactly 1 heart container in the game will restore your health when you pick it up. That's the one you find in the Sanctuary after rescuing Zelda. Worth noting that otherwise it's the crystals and pendants that will restore your health. So yes, that block. You have to maneuver around. Oh crumbs, I'm so intent on trying to finish this that I forgot there's another chest I can go and get. Probably time to take a break. I've been getting a few episodes done today and I'm generally pretty happy with how things have been going. But I think I'm getting a little bit rusty. There is a slight toll being taken. Shouldn't work myself too hard or the quality will drop drastically. Anyway, down here and through this room leads to another key. Switch to the hook shot so that... Alright, that didn't go as planned. But that's good. Yep, step on the switch in here and you've got one last chest. Somewhat appropriately, the compass for the dungeon. Probably didn't need to do that, but better than not knowing. Again, another switch to step on. Yep, it is that one. I won't need much magic for the boss fight. The fire rod does work, but since I have the golden sword, that's a lot more efficient. Okay, still skidding. In we go, finally. So avoid the enemy there, and we can head back down to fight Kholdstare. This hopefully shouldn't take too long. Of course, we all remember what I said about Moldorm, didn't I? Hopefully this shouldn't take too long, and I still managed to fall off. There we go. So yes, I believe you would have had to do a lot of extra navigating and looping around, because there's a crystal switch at some point in the dungeon. It's in an area I didn't show, and I'm not really willing to go back and show it right now. So we'll quickly switch to Bombos and drop down here. The only time one of the medallions works against a boss. Trigger the Bombos medallion and avoid the slush that falls from the ceiling. I'm probably being a bit reckless at the moment because I've just got to that point where it's like, I want this done. Here. There we go. Of course it had to be 20 rupees. Why would it be anything else? It's probably our traditional episode ending now. I will see if I can end each episode by finding 20 rupees and being thoroughly irritated with it. Still don't have what we need to get the super bomb. Anyway, I'll eradicate the enemy in here so that I don't wind up... Actually, this is a bad spot to be. Okay, now I can do my proper ending. We can wrap things up here. As always, thank you very much for joining me, and I'll see you in the next episode. I'll have all my capacity upgrades done, and we will be heading to, let's see what our next destination is. Probably either the Dark Palace, actually no, the East Palace. We can go out to the East Palace, no, do the Dark Palace, then the East Palace, then we can head up to Turtle Rock. Thanks again, and I will see you in the next episode.